Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Food Safety Fridays, edition 69. This week we have Britta Ball, Dr. Britta Ball, Principal Consultant Advancing Food Safety Culture, Britta Ball Associates. And Britta's going to be talking about 3 requirements for commitment to food safety. Can be a bit lonesome sometimes being a food safety and quality manager, and really commitment is a team effort. So how do you get buy-in from senior management, peers, and also line workers? How do you get the support and how do you motivate them? And how do you know if you've got that commitment? How can you measure that? So we will be having Britta shortly. Britta's presented a few times before. She's a very good presenter. I will tell you about next week's webinar, actually, which is in the sidebar, which is an overview of statistical process control, SPC, for the food industry. And that's Frank Shaw's from NSF International. So SPC, it's used to measure quality control and as a basis for improvement, looking at process variation. So we'll be looking at some tools and techniques that they use in SP and now how they're the application of those in the food industry. So that's a really interesting topic. Actually, that's not next week. It's the 21st of April. It's Easter next week. So there is no webinar next week, but the week after, it will be the SPC. So you can register directly from the sidebar. Today's webinar is being recorded. You will get the slides, the webinar recording and the certificate by email afterwards. Just to say, the certificate is a GIF image that you download from Dropbox, and you have to put your own name on it. You can either do that by printing it and type in your name, or you can open the GIF image certificate in an image editing package like Paint, and then you can just type your name on it. We can't individually personalize the certificates. We just haven't got time when there's over 1,000 people registered. So I get asked, there must be about 20 or 30 people ask every week. So you've got to add your own name to the certificate. I'd like to thank the sponsors, Trace Analytics, Safe Food 360, AIB International and Method Toledo, who help bring these webinars to you free of charge every week. There are some polls during today's webinar. There's some questions, so we'd like you to take part in those. And obviously, I can see you're already commenting in the sidebar. Just type your comments and questions in the sidebar throughout, and we'll hopefully have a Q&A at the end. These webinars never go off without some sort of hitch or workaround, and today's no exception. Britta is here. Can you switch your webcam on, Britta, if you're there, and your microphone? Britta is here, but rather than sharing her slides through the webinar system, she's got her webcam pointed at her slides on her desktop. It was a last-minute workaround, and we will not be denied, will we, Britta?
No, that's right.
Great. So what I'll do is I'll just leave it to you. I'll disappear off the bottom. I'll leave it to you. And then after you, well, I'll join you for the polls and things like that. Okay, Britta.
All right. Well, great. Thank you very much, Simon. And thanks again for the opportunity. I'm glad to be able to connect with people again today. And today's topic is 3 requirements for commitment to food safety. And now let's hope these slides go now. Let's hold on. Uh-oh. Hold on. I've just got to get back into my PowerPoint. I think that's a problem there. And now I should be, there we go. Okay, we got it going. Just had to be in the application. So this is just an overview of today's program. We're going to just do a little bit of an introduction about food safety culture, talk about commitment to food safety and the 3 requirements, and then we'll do a summary. So it's a pretty basic format, but I just wanted to give you an overview. And you'll see throughout it was similar to one of the other presentations I gave, where there are actually 3 areas, but there are 3 levels within the areas. So I just wanted you to be aware of that when we're talking about things. And And one of the things that I wanted to mention, and this is sort of interesting. When I talk about food safety culture, initially people were asking me as if it was some sort of a microbial culture, but food safety culture doesn't grow in a lab. You guys will all know that, but it's sort of interesting that that's sort of how it started off. So I have that, as food safety culture doesn't grow in a lab. So what I'd like you to do, just to get you involved right away, is I'd like you to type in the chat box one example of food safety culture in the news. What can you think of that that comes to mind when you think about food safety culture, or the impacts of either a positive or a negative food safety culture in the news? So let's see if I can see chats coming in. I don't see anything yet.
Okay, I'll call the chats in the sidebar if you want.
Okay.
Okay, we've got recalls from Janet, Food Safety Modernisation Act, allergen control recalls, Coca-Cola cans with feces recalls, listeria, Chipotle, Samsung ad recalls, large number of recalls, emphasis on GMO and organic foods, Ninfos recalls, Nicole recalls, Kimberly gluten-free, Tara recalls, pet food recalls, operator buy into programs, salmonella incidents, food fraud, transparency recalls.
Yes. Lots and lots of things about recalls, and food fraud is the most recent one. And so absolutely. And people didn't mention the recalls by name, but we can think of some. And even most recently in Canada, the Robin Hood flour was recalled. The 10-pound bags, or 5-kilogram bags, were recalled for E. coli, not 015787, I think it's 121 or something like that. I forget the number exactly. Anyway, so we're going back. Yeah, food safety culture does hit the news, and it hits the news with bad news. And these are some of the older incidents of food safety culture hitting the news. And again, Bluebell and Sunopta, the listeria in sunflower seeds, I think it was. And XL Foods had been that was one of the earlier recalls there that bought on that. And then JBS Canada bought XL Foods. And there was yet another problem that came after JBS owned it. So this is food safety culture in the news. And then Dixie Jew, that was the soy nut butter that was an individual product, or the soy nut butter was used in soy paste, was used in other things, and those other products ended up being recalled also. So that's just now 2017, and more in 2017. Oh my goodness. JBS Foods again, and I don't know what the other Brazilian food. These were the food fraud incidents. Should we be surprised? I'm with all of the food safety culture issues, with all of the foodborne illness outbreaks and all that. Like, should we still be surprised? I am, but should I be? And then we've got food safety culture in the restaurant and food service style. We had Jimmy John's way back, I forget how many years ago, and Chipotle, and we know those are the two restaurants that were very in the United States. At Cisco, it was a food service company, and they were found that they had Cisco dropped food off and put it into non-refrigerated containers. Then the wholesaler picked it up from the non-refrigerated containers and took it to distribute it to the restaurants. Well, that's craziness. So I don't know how or why that ended up being, but that's since been fixed. And then Sodexo and Compass Group, those are two large food service organizations. And way back, Jack in the Box. Jack in the Box hasn't been in the news. I put that there just because that was the earliest one that really we started talking about food safety culture and the E. coli 0157H7 outbreak. And so those are the ones, restaurant and food service style. But then again, Jimmy John's and Chipotle. And again, And yet again, and Chipotle, when will it stop? Jimmy John's and Chipotle each had at least five outbreaks associated with their companies. And I'm wondering, oh my goodness, what is going on? Now, I will say, though, to give credit to Jimmy John's, they stopped. They didn't stop serving fresh sprouts on their sandwiches, but they now have notices that say, there's a food safety risk associated with fresh sprouts, and if you want it, you're taking a risk. Chipotle, though, they started talking about yes, food safety is important, but now the message is back on the natural and all the wholesome ingredients. So where food safety went with Chipotle, who knows? It'll be interesting to see just what happens with that. So commitment to food safety. Again, and coming back to the topic of this webinar, it's about the commitment to food safety. And commitment to food safety is the basis of the food safety culture. Whether you're making good choices or bad choices, you can have whatever you have a food safety culture. The question is, does your organization have a food safety culture that it wants? So let's get back into the levels of culture. And I've talked about this before, 3 levels of culture. There's sort of the overt level of culture that people see. It's what we call, the term uses artifacts. Those are the things that you can actually pick up and hold. You can read things. You can see structures, organizational structures. You can see the processes that are designed. Those are things that we can see. That's the outside of it's like the skin of the apple. Everything is sort of everything is inside the apple is held together by that skin. Then the middle layer of culture is what we say. These are the beliefs and the values that are shared with the members within the organization, and that's what we would talk about through training initiatives. That would be talked about through all of the follow-up that we're doing and discussing things and what we tell people we believe and what we tell people our values are. And then the core element of organizational culture or any culture is what people do, what they actually do, regardless of their beliefs and values and regardless of the artifacts that are around. So what we do are the core assumptions. They're the core assumptions about how we actually do things. And so I use a personal example. So I know how to properly use my knife and fork, and I know that I'm not supposed to lick my knife and fork, or I lick my fork and not lick my knife. But I live alone, and sometimes what I'll do is, just to make sure that the knife is cleaner when it gets in the dishwasher, is I will lick it, and then I'll put it in the dishwasher to be washed. But what has happened is I had my young nephews and niece over, and we were preparing something for lunch, and I licked the knife inadvertently because I wouldn't normally do that when other people are around. But that was just what I actually was doing. That's not one of my beliefs and values about how I ought to behave when other people are around. But because I did it unconsciously, it happened. That's what we're talking about. The core assumptions. This is about how we actually do things, regardless of what we want to believe that we do. So when we're talking about commitment to food safety, then we've got those core values. Core values of our culture. We've got what we say, what we see, what we show people about. And in commitment to food safety, we've got to look at commitment to food safety from different levels. Top down, management commitment to food safety. Those are the roles, the things that management does as a group, the communication that comes from a corporate level. And food safety culture has to be supported at the organizational level. Because if it's not supported at an organizational level, or actually it is supported at an organizational level, whatever it is, good examples that we'll see later, and some of the bad examples that we just saw in the news. And the bottom up commitment to food safety happens because of the commitments that supervisors have and the workers have, the people within the work units, wherever they be, whether it be a shift or a department or shifts within a department. Each one of the work units will have a level of commitment to food safety. and we would ideally want it to be a positive, strong commitment to food safety, and that would be could create a positive food safety culture, and that will show up as food safety behavior, what people are actually doing. So it is top down, bottom up, and we don't actually show in the diagrams that I have. We don't actually show the part about the middle manager. It's the people in the middle, and the roles, the important roles that the people in the middle play. And I'm guessing that many of the people on the webinar are those people in the middle. So you're kind of sandwiched between the top and the bottom, and you got to communicate up and you got to communicate down, and know that when you're speaking up, you've got to speak in a different language than when you're speaking to people down, and it's also different when you're speaking to people across from you as well, your peers. And so these are different levels of commitment to food safety, and you have to have the commitment at all levels. And at all of these levels, there are things that need to happen. So I just wanted to, so this just kind of goes with what I've just said, is that at the top down, there's an organizational levels, and management has to look at things from strategically at an organizational level. Individually, each one of those managers has their own level of commitment that they have to bring to the table when they're looking at things at the organizational level. The same thing happens at a group level. So at the group level, when you get a work group level, like I said, a shift or a department, whatever that is, there are individuals within those operational groups. And those individuals comes with their own level of commitment. And that's what makes up that group level commitment. And that goes also with peers in the middle. I don't actually have something that says middle both ways, but that's essentially what has to happen also. And so then again, did I duplicate this slide? I must have duplicated this slide. Here we go again. This is a part about what I'm going to go focus on now is the C. So I didn't duplicate this slide. It's a different title on it. So the C part of food safety, of commitment to food safety. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 examples where organizations are working to strengthen their food safety culture. They've got good ones and they want to strengthen them. So these 3 examples that we've got Maple Leaf. So Maple Leaf was involved in Canada with a nationwide listeriosis outbreak, and 23 people died as a result of that. And from that, Maple Leaf leadership stepped up to the plate and said, we're going to make a food safety promise. We're going to make commitments, and they've taken a leadership role in food safety internationally, and so they can be commended for that. And one of the ways that they do that is that they've identified that they need to have everybody in the organization aligned with the values. So they've created values. They've shown now that they've got a safety promise, and their food safety promise is their safety promise includes their food safety promise. So the goal is to always provide consumers safe, great tasting food produced in a safe work environment. So that looks at the safe work environment for their employees and providing consumers with safe, great tasting food. It can be safe and not taste very good, but so there's that working together, having a good taste and having it safe. That is what Maple Leaf has identified as their safety promise. And so now, and this is on the website, this page off the website. So this is on the website, and so this is one of the things that that people can see. They can see that Maple Leaf has these values. Then what has to happen, or now what has to happen, is Maple Leaf has to follow through to make sure that everything that everybody in the organization does is aligned with these organizational values. And Hershey's then is another one that in their they show to other people. It's written in written documents about their corporate social responsibility. Their food safety, I own it, I live it, is part of what they have as a way to integrate food safety everywhere throughout the organization with every employee. And so, and the corporate social responsibility statement in their 2015 annual report, a quarterly report, says that Hershey remains committed to improving food quality, safety, and ingredient transparency. And in 2016, they have mandatory safety training, which is, when they say safety training, they are actually also referring to food safety training. And so in 2016, the focus was on allergens. Also associated with their food safety, their commitment and alignment to food safety, is that all of their suppliers are going to have to become GFSI certified. And they also, in their organizational structure, have a high-level a position. I forget if it's a senior director or director or vice president. Maybe if somebody from Hershey's is there, they can actually tell me what it is. They can type it in the chat box. I half remember it being a vice president of food safety culture or something along those lines. But my point really is that there's a high-level position in the organization that's focused on food safety culture, and they have an interdisciplinary food safety culture team that's international, not just interdisciplinary but international. And these are the kinds of things that are done to show and follow through that Hershey's is committed to food safety. So alignment with the organizational values. And Walmart is a third example that I wanted to focus on that gives, this shows how the corporate values are connected with food safety. And in this case, Frank Giannis has talked about this before. He came into Walmart and the corporate values already existed. So what he worked on was seeing how food safety can fit in with the corporate values. The corporate values of service to the customer, respect for the individual, strive for excellence, act with integrity through everyday behaviors. And he was able to make it so that all of those values, there was an element of each of those values that connects with food safety also. So if we're going to provide service to the customer, that means we're going to do things so that we're ensuring the customer has safe food. We have respect for the individual. That means everything that we do relating to food safety shows that we respect the individuals. Striving for excellence, again, food safety can be connected with that. And acting integrity and making sure that everything is done connected with food safety, that it connects with that. And these are through everyday behaviors. And so, as an examples in this, associate requirements, what they require is they require people to follow their employee hygiene systems. The employees are required to be involved in sanitation. There's a requirement for no bare hand contact on ready-to-eat foods. Supplier requirements. Walmart has also required their suppliers to be GFSI certified. That was implemented in 2009, and there may have been a transition period. I'm not sure the exact details on that. But more recently, they're requiring a natural inhibitor for Listeria monocytogenes in all of their deli meat products. Perhaps more than that, but at least their deli meat products. And they also have a purchase requirement. They will not buy raw sprouts anymore. And Jimmy John's hasn't caught on to that because they still have outbreaks related to sprouts. But Walmart doesn't wants to protect its customers and has respect for individuals, and so it's chosen to discontinue the sales of sprouts. So these are the kinds of things that organizations can do. They can show that things that their actions they take actually align with their values and the organization's values. And so this is a key way that organizations show and demonstrate that they've got commitment to food safety. So I'd just like you to take time now to chat and type in the chat box. What example do you have of food safety alignment in your workplace? Or if you can't really think of it in your workplace, perhaps in another workplace. So take a moment and type in the chat box and And Simon can read them off.
Okay. Dennis has just put a quote. Quality is not an act, it's a habit. Aristotle. That's a good quote. Quality,
Okay.
an act, it's a habit. Tina Kim, let's have a look. Separate lines for allergens, Michelle said. So they have separate lines for continuous improvement by holding monthly meetings, attending food safety conferences and training, quality policy and objectives. That's Robert. Easy to use instrumentation to ensure food safety, training. What else? COO and I try to speak with the same voice. Red or green cards for a good or bad job. Monthly topic of the month for food safety. Explain to associates why certain conditions are in place. There's quite a few innovative things actually. Training on food safety concepts, training for food safety culture, new devices installed in production area for food safety requirements, a newsletter. Catch them doing something right. All good stuff.
Yes, yes. So these are great examples of how how companies are having things aligned with food safety, and so having regular themes for training on food safety, like a couple of examples were monthly themes training food safety. And it's really important to have more than once a year food safety training. Have the checkbox whether we need it or not. We're going to do food safety training. That's not enough training when you consider that occupational health and safety training is done on a weekly basis, and some organizations would only do food safety training on an annual basis. That shows the priority put on food safety. So when we start doing monthly trainings, at least, or having a monthly theme, at least you're doing it 12. A company would be doing it 12 times more often than if it's just annual. So that's definitely a step in the right direction. And ideally, you'd have some kinds of things on a more regular, more frequent basis than once a month related to food safety, because that can keep remind people that food safety is important in the workplace. And it can also be tied to home as well, but that's another whole conversation. So again, we're talking about levels, areas of commitment to food safety. And so, did I just skip one? No, I didn't. Here we go. And so this comes back then. Commitment to food safety is so connected to food safety culture. If you don't have commitment to food safety, a positive commitment to food safety, you're not going to have a positive food safety culture. So they're both connected. And what we have in food safety culture, it is people sharing information about how to do things and acting in ways that work for the group or worked as in past for the group. And these becomes habits that are hard to change. So the ingrained habits are hard to change. That's kind of like go back to my licking the knife. It became an ingrained habit, and I actually had to make a conscious effort to stop doing that because I didn't want to accidentally do it in front of people I shouldn't have been doing it. So these are the things. I mean, I had knowledge about manners, and I had behavior, but they didn't jive. They weren't connected. So what we're looking at is finding that sweet spot where food safety knowledge and food safety science and actual behavior combine to have the correct food safety behavior, and ingrained so that in ways so that because habits are hard to change. And that sharing of information about how to do things is what happens in an informal basis, a lot of times on an informal basis. And that's where people see, oh, okay, so I was taught about this, but this is how my coworker does it, and that seems easier, so I'm going to do it that way. And so it's that informal sharing of information that can actually disrupt some training disrupt is the wrong word, but distract from the training that was of the correct way of doing things. So that's why follow-up is important. We're going to come to that. Actually, I'm ahead of myself. So here we have a poll, and perhaps Simon, you can take the moment to put the poll up. The question is, how does management commitment to food safety compare with worker commitment to food safety in your workplace? So would you say management commitment to food safety is greater than work unit commitment to food safety, the same as worker commitment to food safety, or less than worker commitment to food safety?
Okay, that poll is in the sidebar. How does management commitment to food safety compare with worker commitment in your workplace? Management commitment to food safety is greater than worker commitment, the same as worker commitment, or less than worker commitment. And we have at the moment 41%, 42% greater, similar, almost exactly the same as worker commitment, and then 15% less than worker commitment. Yeah. So actually, when we're talking about management commitment, that's relatively not too bad, is it? Really?
No, that's right. And so if we see, ideally, management commitment to food safety will be the same as worker commitment to food safety. That would be ideal. And the reason it would be ideal would mean that shows that everybody across the organization is committed to food safety. And when we see that management commitment to food safety is greater than worker commitment to food safety, what we see is that somewhere along the line, the message isn't getting through. And so that the top-down part isn't coming through effectively in order for it to be the same as. If it's less than, that means that there's positive worker commitment to food safety. The work unit people, they're following through on the behaviors that they're supposed to be doing. There's good supervisors that are helping that happen, but the senior management either doesn't understand, or we're not really sure why that would be so small. But could be a level of where at the work level, they know the importance of it because there's good training and good food safety and quality assurance personnel that are doing their jobs effectively. It's just not coming through in the management. So that's really great. So if it's great to know that the large majority of let me just tip that. I just kicked my there. Okay, so it's great to see that there's not as much worker commitment. Let me rephrase that. It's great to see that the majority of people are in the same as worker commitment or greater than worker commitment, because now we see that management can actually improve their communication and improve things, and then that can influence worker commitment to food safety also. So this is a good thing, and we're going to talk later about how to do that as we're coming along. So as I mentioned before, top-down commitment to food safety, that's management's commitment, management roles and actions and communication relates to food safety culture. And work unit commitment to food safety is the bottom up, that supervisor commitment, worker commitment, food safety behavior. And the middle kind of ish, we haven't actually identified where this kind of fits in other than the middle, is that infrastructure. The research that I did shows that the infrastructure to food safety is in the middle, and that middle commitment to food safety goes both ways, up and down, up to management commitment and down to work unit commitment. And at the top level, I talked about this also. I may have duplicated these slides. I know I talked about this. Organizational level also has individuals, and at the group level, we also have individuals. So, and here's the research that I did. This shows that management commitment to food safety has a direct impact on work unit commitment to food safety. And work unit commitment to food safety is the predicting factor what predicts worker food safety behavior. So we need both, and that's the important thing. And that's why I was saying that if we strengthen management commitment to food safety, that will strengthen work unit commitment to food safety. These are the organizational and group factors. And there's also research that talks about the individual factors and the intention to follow particular behaviors. And these particular researchers did their work in a poultry operation in the United States. They identified the attitude toward behaviors, the subjective norms, which are the group norms, the group behaviors, the perception of somebody people's perception of how much control they had over their behavior. It would influence behavior, and then the work routines or habits. Let me just go back up to the perceived control to act. That's a perception that people have of their ability to control what it is they're supposed to be doing. So if I'm supposed to wash my hands and there's never any soap, then I would perceive that I don't have control over that behavior. If there were no paper towels to dry my hands, then I'd not want to wash them. Or if I had to go all the way across the room and I was being asked by my supervisor to hurry up, do my work more quickly, but then I'm supposed to wash my hands, there's a disconnect. So that's what the perceived control to take action, or perceived behavioral control is actually the terminology. So that's what that's all about, and that directly goes to self-reported behavior, whereas your attitudes and the subjective norms, what people around you expect you to do or would want you to do, that will influence your intention to behave in a certain way. What we're learning in some areas, we've actually learned that moral norms, and individuals' moral norms, will influence their intention and may actually override subjective norms. So if your family or your community has a particular expectation, and you have, through your own learnings, decided that that's not right, you might have different moral norms. So perhaps you learned at school that recycling is important, but your family doesn't recycle and they ridicule people who recycle. Then you might not want to recycle in front of them, but you have your own moral norms and you say, well, I'm going to recycle and that's my intention. So those moral norms that you have are personal and they can override subjective norms. That's an important part, because these individual factors, the moral norms, if we can help people, workers, understand the things from a moral perspective, food safety from a moral perspective, then that could perhaps override some of the subjective norms, the group norms that they have perhaps from their family or from elsewhere. Hopefully not from the workplace. Hopefully everybody in the workplace has the subjective norms in the workplace are set so that that following food safety behaviors is the way to go. But it could be that moral norms are what's going to influence people to follow those things, those practices. And what's just happened here? Oh yes, and then moral norms also may override the perceived control to act, the perceived behavioral control. So if I really strongly believe in recycling and environmental sustainability, then I may actually go a little bit out of my way to put that, maybe even a lot out of my way, to put that can in the recycling bin instead of tossing it on the ground or throwing it in the garbage. And so that's how moral norms can override a little bit of the perception to control, a perceived behavioral control. Again, there's no research to say that, but I know from my own personal experience that can do that, because I will go out of my way to take a can to the recycling bin, even though I may have to go all the way around the room and the garbage is right close by. So that's an example of how moral norms can override some of the other things, or not necessarily totally override, but influence the have an impact on the on what might otherwise be be seen as straightforward. So individual factors are important. And so when we go, if you think back to the earlier slide, when it talked about individual factors being part of the organizational commitment to food safety, that it's individual managers' factors that can contribute to that. The same as individual workers or supervisors or middle managers' perspectives, moral norms can influence what it is that they're going to do with respect to their behavior. So then the saying part of the cultural aspects, the beliefs and the values that are shared with members. So I may not share my moral norms with people. That may be something that I just do. But when we're talking about sharing things, one of the ways we share things is through focused training. And Hershey's, the example that I gave earlier, has focused training. And so their 2016 theme on allergen control, for example, was focused training. The purpose of focused training, the purpose of any training ought to be behavior change, or at least sustaining the positive behavior, their desired behavior. So behavior change is really what training is about. We may provide knowledge, but unless we want people to use that knowledge is just there. That having knowledge there isn't that useful. Hopefully, people are going to use the knowledge and then act on it. The same as training. Training is actually more skills based, and although we use it interchangeably with education. So the ideal then is that it's behavior change we're looking for, and things that influence learning are things that are going to influence our ability to help with behavior change. So the types of training that we have, on-job training, in-class training, mentoring and coaching, face-to-face and online training, individual and group training, different people are better able to use some of the training more effectively. Some people learn better individually than in groups. Other people learn better in groups than individuals. Some people prefer face-to-face. Some people do quite well online. So those are the kinds of factors that influence learning. And the trainer's capabilities also influence learning. And so when we're looking for behavior change, we want to make sure that we're using the most appropriate type of training, and that we're using trainers that are capable at designing learning appropriately, involving learners through interactivity and participation, and giving opportunities for application and reflection. And then the other important thing about training is to follow up. So regardless of whether you're ones that have been doing the training, presenting the training or not, follow-up is important. And research has shown that the follow-up of the supervisor after training, it's a supervisor follow-up that is seen as more important than anything that the trainer might do, unless, of course, the trainer is closely connected with the workers in the workplace. And for behavior to change, that feedback has to be provided. So there needs to be observation, and you want to find people doing the right thing and compliment them on doing what it was that they were trained to do, as opposed to waiting until they're not doing things right and then saying, oh, you didn't do that right. Most people want to do the right things. And if they've just learned something, and if they're trying to put into practice what they've just learned, it's helpful for them to get feedback to let them know that they are doing what it is correctly. And this reminds me of when I was a kid, my mom would say, coming back to table manners again, my mom would say, don't eat your peas, don't shovel your peas, because I was trying to get peas onto my fork in a particular way. Don't shovel your peas. Well, okay, so if I'm not supposed to shovel my peas, I tried something else. She says, no, don't something, I forget what it was. Don't squish my peas. I forget whatever it was. I wasn't doing it right, but I didn't know how the right thing was. I wanted to do it right, but I didn't know what it was, and I wasn't being told what the right thing was. I was just being told what not to do. And being told what not to do isn't as helpful as being told what to do in a case when you're trying to get feedback. And so when you've got non-compliance, then you've got to have consequences about that. But remember, most people do want to do the right thing. And so helping them to do the right thing is important. Having consequences of non-compliance means that you have, when there is non-compliance after you've done some follow-up positive feedback, then that consequences of having some consequence is important. So what if there's non-compliance? Are you going to shout at the person? Well, maybe you don't want to do that. If there is non-compliance, you do want to look at some root cause of where the issue lies. Is it the environment? Is it equipment? Is it something that relates to perceived behavioral control? Do they actually have control over the situation? Are they being asked to maintain their productivity? If you've done training and you want people to implement the new information that they've gained to do a behavior change, you must expect a decrease in productivity. If you don't allow a decrease in productivity, then people are going to go back to the same way of doing things. And learning anything new takes a little bit longer to do things. If you can think of your own situation and you learn something new and you tried a new technique, did it take the same length of time to do it? Did it take shorter time? Or did it maybe take longer time? And often when we're asking for behavior change, we're asking people to override a habit and to consciously think about what it is we want them to do. And that slows things down. So you've got to make sure you allow time for that, for people to integrate new behaviors. And that means a drop in productivity. So allow that, and then you'll get productivity increasing later. And at least productivity will be increased later. They'll be back up to speed, and they'll be doing things the right way. Is the root cause, though, a shortcut that people are taking that they need to actually stop taking? Is there a way to eliminate the opportunity for that shortcut that people would be taking that is the cause of this issue? Or is that non-compliance related to something that's going on with their supervisor or senior management or middle management? Or is that something going on somewhere else with respect to the culture? So we need to do a more thorough job on root cause analysis sometimes, because often when somebody's done something wrong and there's a non-compliance issue, then what the corrective action is, retrain. Also, retraining is not going to be helpful if there's environmental issue or if there's shortcuts. If there's a supervisor or a peer issue, the retraining isn't going to be useful. You've actually got to do a thorough job on root cause analysis. And then the final area is the do. These are what I talked about, the core assumptions, and I've already given you a couple of examples of that. And so coming back again to this slide about behaviors, self-reported behaviors, okay, they're maybe over-reported, but still it's the best, the best thing we have. But as I talked about before, moral norms can make a difference, and they can override if we have those. And so is there a way in a commitment to food safety perspective that we can help people make a connection at a moral level to change their perception so that they'll change their intention and their behavior? And that's a much longer discussion, because there actually hasn't been I haven't seen anything related to food safety that connects with the moral norms. It will be interesting to actually see further in future years whether somebody's going to do research in this area. So then commitment to food safety, top down and bottom up and in the middle. And just like in the lab, we've got to have the correct environment for, whoops, let's knock that again. We've got to have the correct environment for people to do things. We've got to have the right kind of tools. We have to have the right kind of systems. We have to have effective training, and we have to have the chemistry in the chemistry in the labs. We've got to have the right pH and the right sugar and nutrients in the system in order for the organisms to grow. Well, so people also have to have the right kind of the right kind of support within, the right kind of people support within their work unit, whether it be their work groups, their management groups, whatever that happens to be. There has to be that chemistry between the people that are working there. And then support. So the support that could happen, is there good and effective follow-up with respect to supervisors, and even management following up, senior management following up with middle management, making sure that there's support and mentoring that's going on there, and middle managers supporting supervisors. Is there the right kind of support and follow up there, making sure that the communication and alignment from the organizational level goes all the way through the middle managers to the supervisors, all the way down to the operational level, so that everybody understands their role and how their role is aligned with the organization's values, mission, and vision. And that's how we get back to that idea of moral norms. And so if we can connect people and help people connect and align and help them to see how their role, their jobs align with the vision, mission, and values of the organization, then they're going to want to be part of that, or we want to help them find a way to become part of that. And so that's part of that support that we're talking about, and helping people to understand how their roles are in alignment with the organization. So commitment to food safety then is appropriate equipment, conditions, and reminders, effective leadership and communication and training, and then coaching and mentoring. And that coaching and mentoring can take different forms with different people at different levels. And so at a coaching mentoring at a frontline level, maybe a supervisor working more closely with a couple of people, and at the senior management level, there may be executive coaches, and at the middle management level and supervisory level, what kind of support and coaching and mentoring is happening at the supervisory level, or the middle management level, to assist people in helping them understand their roles in food safety, or helping them be more effective at their food safety roles if they're a food safety and quality assurance director or manager. And so what's happening with respect to the organization in that way, and how are people being supported in being aligned with the organization's values, vision, and mission. And so just as we come to the end of our webinar, I just like you to take a moment and type in the chat box, what's the most valuable element that you got from today's webinar?
Okay, I will. I'll read those out when they come through. Excellent content, Britta. Training or even short training like this should be mandatory for senior management. I mean, there are requirements in GFSI standards for requirements for senior management, but just simple education and this model that you present and the tips, it's very thought-provoking. Okay, let's have a look. Communication, refresher courses, the need for management commitment, more norms to go a long way in getting people to commit to food safety, top down and bottom up balance, how to communicate to management efficiency effectively, see, say, do. So that's stuck. Management commitment is crucial. Do as you say. Yeah, simple as that. Say what you do what you say. Goal is to support or change behaviour, providing feedback, communication both up and down, all levels to be committed. Food safety is a result of company culture, then it becomes culture. See, say, do, moral plays, more extensive training on root cause analysis, effective leadership and coaching, awareness and commitment, Making sure training is effective, following up. Continuous communication on same food safety and quality core values. Make food safety a habit. Retraining doesn't always provide the answer. Look for the root cause.
Excellent.
Well,
Yes,
like
excellent.
A lot stuck there, Britta. Yeah.
Yes, excellent. So, what I can take, what I can do with these, Simon, is I can, if you can, we'll grab all the comments when they continue, they'll come in, and then I can do a summary of them and so come up with groups of thoughts and of these comments, and you can email them out to the participants.
Yeah, that would be great. That if you want to, can you turn your webcam round and then we can?
Okay, yeah. Just one last thing I want people to do after they've come on that, I have an action plan. So, what one action will they take as a result of the webinar?
Okay.
And when will you start? So you've learned all this stuff. You've written down some of the key nuggets that some of the items that you thought were key elements to take away from this, and it may not be an
Britta, your voice is gone. Hello, Britta. Can you hear me? We can still see your screen, but can't hear you. If you can still type in, ladies and gents, while we get Britta back, what one action will you take as a result of this webinar, and when will you start? Attempting SQF certification level next month. Start visual management to drive for awareness. Behavior and attitude change, very important. Communicate information. So you're going to communicate the information from the session. Start straight away. Yeah, don't delay. That's really important. Make sure management and worker commitments are on the same level. Change my behavior in the production line. I will start right now. That's fantastic. Do more than retraining, follow up. Key actions, results of day. Be more engaged during cleanups on the floor to drive leadership commitment to process success. More visual reminders. Discuss how to provide better feedback. Are you there, Britta? See, say, do. Drive awareness further. Bottom level workers should take ownership of their own areas. Britta, are you there? Britta, I still can't hear you. Can you turn your microphone on and off? Yeah, good point, Michael. If you've not started already, well, it's a journey. I suppose excellent food safety culture is a journey. So there is no beginning and no end, I suppose. More communication. Okay, ladies and gents, we seem to have lost Britta. We did get to the end of her presentation, and she did ask that pertinent question: what one thing are you going to do, and what are you going to do, and when are you going to do it? And if you do that one thing and don't leave it, do it straight away. Do that one thing, you'll start to make a positive change in your business. Okay, unfortunately, Britta's mic's given up. It was crackling a fair bit throughout, but it was a fantastic presentation, and I'm sure you can hear me, Britta. I'd like to say thanks on behalf of everybody on this webinar today, the IFS community and myself, and we'll have you back again. I love having you as a presenter. Excellent topic and excellent subject matter. So we will issue the slides and the webinar recording so that you can watch that again. Please do commit to that action and do it. Change starts with you. If you're going to change anybody or anything in your organization, you've got to be the catalyst for that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to issue the certificate in the sidebar. Remember what I said previously is that will take you to a web page. Click the link, will take you to Dropbox, and then you will download it's a GIF image, the certificate. You can either print and sign your name or open it in an image editing package such as Paint, and then you'll be able to type it. And that's it. We can't provide certificates with your name on. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so that's it for today. We'll see you in 2 weeks with Frank Schurz for the SPC, how to use SPC in the food industry to identify variation, causes of variation, and also to identify improvements and track improvements as well. So that should be good. It's a new topic. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. It's been a pleasure as always, and see you in a couple of weeks. If you celebrate Easter, if you've got some time off, enjoy the break. Happy Friday, and certainly enjoy your weekend. Take care. Cheers. Bye.